What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. I want to try my best to provide what I think is critical information for those who may be interested in going into the PC ecosystem from console. A lot of misconceptions lay all over the place, and I think if we actually factor things in a better perspective, we'll be able to provide what I think is useful information for those who may want to make the decision to pull the trigger and move, or at least understand that this is what they're actually benefiting if they were to stay on console versus going to PC and vice versa. Somebody asked this question and said, serious question, why should I spend thousands on a PC when I can buy a $500 Xbox and play games on GeForce Now? I think the question is a little convoluted. However, I understand where they're coming from. They're probably thinking that before you buy a PC, you have to spend thousands. And when you actually are buying this PC, you're probably overpaying for it. How do I know they're asking this question? Because somebody asked basically a similar question just a few days ago under this Rockstar video where the developer was talking about why Rockstar prioritizes console. This person was pretty much responding to a thread where people were talking about how they're more PC gamers. And they said a high quality gaming PC costs more than consoles, and majority of gamers are not overpaying for a PC. You see, this is a convoluted view because they are already saying a high quality gaming PC costs more than consoles, and if you pay for it, you're basically overpaying. But the reality is a high quality gaming PC is better than a console. A medium quality PC is also better than a console. The comparison is where the problem is. People are not comparing a gaming PC in a broader context of what it already is and can do with a console in the broader context of what it is and can do. So somebody replied and said, what? A 3070 card alone costs as much as the PS5 at launch. So I don't count it as a mid-range PC because the whole set will be much more expensive than the console. So what 3060? I will play there in 4K like on a PS5. And I laughed because I thought to myself, if only we could actually let people understand that a full 3070 card or 3060 card is a piece of technology that spans for more uses than gaming. You see, it's been boxed into a box that says you can game at this whatever, but in reality, that piece of technology is actually boxed and sold separately and differently to other professionals and other industries that use it for things like game development, architecture, product design, animation, video editing, graphics design, 3D art, and then the gamer comes into the equation last. You see, in order of people who would need a 3070, the gamer, in my opinion, is probably on the bottom, especially in that particular budget. The thing is, NVIDIA and AMD have been able to package these technologies that they've sold to professionals for very expensive money and have been able to bring it to the much more broader community, but the pricing has scaled console significantly, and people have just had this conception in their minds that, man, how is a $500 GPU, a $500 GPU more than my console? Why is it's so expensive? Well, that's because that technology, the graphics card itself, in real life has a lot more use than just gaming. So when you buy a 3070 for $500, it's a 3070 that can game as well as do all these other things and more that I didn't even mention over here. So this is why the technology comparison that people make with the console and the graphics cards and the CPU don't make sense. Now, if we even go into CPU technology, we will pretty much see something that is just as similar in the same context, because the CPU that is in your PS5 and your Series X or Series S is not a CPU that can actually do a lot in regard to these areas of use. So when the game developer is trying to compile code or trying to, in a sense, create a build of their game, they don't want your 8-core CPU in a PS5. I guarantee you that they would rather take a 6-core desktop CPU over your 8-core Series X CPU. And crazy enough, CPU technology has become so ubiquitous and so efficient that you can actually buy some really, really good CPUs right now for as little as $100 and something. Like the AMD Ryzen 5 5600, I own this CPU, and I can tell you this thing is a monster. This thing can fire up Unreal Engine 5. It can play pretty much any video game that you throw at it. It can compile shaders like crazy. You can build an entire open world having a CPU like this, and you can pretty much package your game when you're done, even though it will take you a while because the CPU just has, fewer cores than whatever. But it is CPUs like these that were used to create a lot of video games. In fact, CPUs that were less powerful than this built a lot of video games that we enjoy today. So the technology that you're paying for is way more than the technology that you need. Unless you can reconcile with that reality, then a gaming PC is not for you. However, if you think, well, I want to buy a truck even though I only need a skateboard, then sure, that's where gaming PCs come in for the most part. And that's why most of the time the discrepancy is there when it comes to the pricing. Now, I have to be very fair. When a lot of people on YouTube say things like, oh, this is the new console killer gaming PC build, they don't do anybody a service because they continue to perpetuate this particular misconception to the console gamer that you can compare the PC and the console. When in reality, what they're doing, and they're not necessarily saying in the full term, is you're comparing the gaming capability of this PC with the gaming capability of the console, which is pretty much the only use of that console. So in reality, this is what it is that you're going to get. So if you say, okay, well, my 3070 is not able to play this game at this particular performance yet, or if I can play it at this performance on the console, why do I need a 3070 to also play it at a similar performance? Well, the question is based on the developer. If the developer develops and designs their game to be able to leverage the 3070 and the Ryzen 7 or Ryzen 5 5500, whatever it is, I can't even remember the name. I own the CPU, but I don't know what it costs because I don't know what the name is called because I bought it for $100. I was like, oh, good deal, 6-core, yay, right? Then you can pretty much say to yourself, well, the developer needs to pay. Basically, the developer is the main culprit here because they made their game to be very demanding. They made their game to require a lot of, juice in regard to processing power. So that's a developer thing, right? And most of the time you even play native on PC anyways. And if you can't, then the developer ought to basically work on their game to be able to accommodate your hardware. And that's just one major aspect that you need to take a look at. So it's not necessarily the fact that your Xbox can play it on, this particular, performance, while your graphics card and CPU can also play it at that performance. It's just a developer that optimized their game in that manner. And so that's why you're getting that performance. So when you move past the gaming side, you now start to see and start to realize, oh, I'm not just buying a gaming PC. I'm actually buying a machine that has broader use, that has more power in terms of what it can deliver. The only thing is it just happened to be able to be something I can game with. And that's it. The manufacturers of the GPUs and the CPUs, what they were successful in doing was making, enthusiasts out of most of us that just wanted a gaming PC. We all just wanted the PC because we just wanted to play on a PC. But then they ended up turning us into enthusiasts. So now most of us have 4090s and big fat CPUs that can, pretty much process all of the data in your local library for the whole year in real time, right? Sitting in our living rooms or in our offices. But in reality, we don't really need those CPUs for the most part, unless we're doing things like game development, game design, or some of you are maybe coders, and you need to be able to compile heavy code very fast. And so this is pretty much the use of things like this. Another thing they also were able to, successfully do was make the CPUs, the really powerful CPUs, very, very affordable. So now you have a marketing scheme where the CPUs are way powerful than your good old cheap GPU, and you have what's called a bottleneck, and now you feel like you got to go blow that money for that 3070. And so it's a really interesting an Ouroboros in a sense, because now you don't bought into something that is going to cost you a little bit more. But unless you can reconcile yourself with that cost, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So for a lot of the $500 can build you a gaming PC, blah, blah, blah. Those videos are not necessarily telling you the whole truth as to how things actually are. Well, they are, but at the end of the day, it's not really the 100% reality.